Going to mug me?
Am I going to mug you?
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Download Veely now.
Hello and welcome to Legends of Opera, where we shall be delving into the lives of the incredible singers who have given us the heritage of opera. Jessye Norman came from an aspiring family who were well educated. However, this was segregation time in Augusta, Georgia. Music was always in Jessye's home, and she sang in the church that her parents attended. Jessye received a radio when she was 9, and she would tune into the broadcasts from the Metropolitan Opera. Lucia di Lammermoor had an intense effect on her.
She was, on stage, absolutely electrifying.
She was very talented. People adored her, people loved her. She was a star of the night.
One of her teachers in high school recognized her singing potential and enrolled her into a competition in Philadelphia. This was a big trip for the 16-year-old Jessye. She did not win that competition, as all the other competitors were adult singers. However, her teacher did not give up and took her to Howard University to meet one of the vocal coaches there. The staff were so impressed with Jessye that she was awarded a full scholarship to attend Howard.
She just soars over the orchestra, and it's a big orchestra at that point, and she just did it gloriously.
Jessye Norman continued to win scholarships and grants, which took her as a graduate student to Berlin's Deutsche Oper. A 3-year contract was given to her, and Jessye became a fully fledged opera star.
The voice at its best was just like a sort of great waterfall. It was a massive, wonderful, it just sort of gushed forth, and it had this sort of feeling of bottomlessness.
The quality of her voice is unbelievable.
Jessye Mae Norman was born on the 15th of September 1945 in Augusta, Georgia.
One of 4 children born to Silas and Janie Norman. This is the Deep South in 1945 in Georgia, so that's incredible segregation for African Americans. Within that, Miss Norman grew up in a relatively well-to-do family, very aspirational.
It was a warm, homely sort of family upbringing, lots of tales about Sunday lunches and Baptist church, which of course was where she started to sing.
When she was 7, she entered a competition through the choir, and she placed 3rd, even though she forgot the 2nd stanza.
But it was around that time, when she was a youngster, her ear first caught onto the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts. Every Saturday matinee, there was something broadcast from the Met, and the first thing she heard there was Lucia di Lammermoor.
She loved this sound, And she would go to school the next day on Mondays and talk about the opera.
It really does show that Jessye was brought up in such a musical family and she had such a gift that at the age of 9, when most children are still listening to kids' songs, she wanted to hear the great bel canto opera, the Metropolitan Opera, these long, big, complicated operas that are thought to be for adults, and that's what she adored.
It was during her time at high school that one of her teachers recognised her potential and wanted to enter her in a singing competition in Philadelphia to enter in the Marian Anderson Award. Marian Anderson was a great contralto. She was the first black singer to make it at the Met, so she was very symbolic. So Jessye was taken up there and to enter this competition. Didn't get through.
But on the way back, the teacher took her to Howard University, where there was a vocal coach, and introduced her to the vocal coach. The vocal coach and Howard were so impressed with Jessye, they offered her a scholarship.
Howard is what's called in America a traditional black university. This university was given a land grant, and it was designed for newly freed slaves. It's the Harvard of African America. So to even get in there is very prestigious, but to get a full scholarship is amazing.
At Howard University, Jessye sang in their choir, she sang in small recitals around Washington, and she began on the audition circuit. So it was a great launch for her, and she enjoyed it there. When she graduated, she then went to the Peabody Conservatory of Music.
She found much too competitive and cutthroat. Her lucky break, if you like, was finding this French teacher called Pierre Bernac, who'd been a very distinguished singer of French songs. He took her on and taught her the finer points of singing French music, and she remained a really wonderful interpreter of that repertoire.
In 1968, Jessye Norman, while still a graduate student, travelled to West Germany and entered the international music competition of the German Broadcasting Corporation in Munich. She was admired by all and came away with first prize. After winning this prestigious award, it was just a year later that she was asked to debut in Berlin's esteemed Deutsche Oper as Elisabeth in Wagner's Tannhäuser.
She really put her heart into the role, and she was so good that in the interval, when she was in her dressing room, the musical director of the Berlin Opera came in to offer her a contract, and she accepted and stayed for 3 years. So she was on stage, absolutely electrifying.
That was huge for her. I mean, Jessye Norman always was going to head into heavier Strauss, Wagner type repertoire. Elisabeth is a very good starting role for Wagner sopranos. The thing about Deutsche Oper, like a lot of German opera houses, is that they run as a company. So as a singer, you will be given particular roles to sing through the season. So you might say, sing the Countess. But they don't have a big run of performances. There will be a certain number throughout the year. So that gives you space in your diary to go off and explore different things and visit different houses. And that's how she became a well-known name in Europe.
Jessye's exploration of repertoire continued throughout her career. She went on to sing Mozart's Dove Sono from Le Nozze di Figaro for many years to come. Throughout Jessye Norman's career, she received varied advice as to the operatic selection she should make. However, she often followed her own instincts and interests when choosing repertoire. This drive compelled her to seek out musical works that she felt suited her vocal skills. This search took Jessye to Florence, where in 1970 she sang a lesser-known Handel oratorio, Deborah.
They couldn't believe her. She was just sort of a dream for them. Miss Norman knew she couldn't have had that career at that time in America. So she used every opportunity, which she would use later on, to teach and to train.
Spending the amount of time that she did in Germany was great for her, because you can build a career slightly out of the public eye. You know, if you're making a big debut at a very young age at the Met, you can get catapulted into fame too soon. But she had time to learn her craft in Germany, but also to perfect her German language, which was very important for the sort of roles that she went on to sing.
She loves Germany. She has an opportunity to see East Berlin, which really affected her deeply. The degradation, the oppression, the wish of the people to make music under very, very harsh conditions. It expanded her own vocabulary as an artist, as a human being. She was very attached to Germany. This continues throughout her life, but she was very, very affected by it. By this time, Phillips asked her to record the Countess for this series, and this was a great honor. It was amazing. She's still quite young, but she's known now for this incredible voice, heroic and beautiful demeanor on stage.
(1972) was a big year for Jessye Norman. She was invited to make her debut at La Scala in the title role in Aida, which at La Scala is as big as they come. Also in the same year, she made her debut at Covent Garden.
Jessye Norman first performed here in 1972 when she performed the role of Cassandra in The Trojans, and I think that she became most well known here for performing the title role in Ariadne auf Naxos in the 1980s. I think the thing about Jessye is that she had this extraordinarily expressive instrument, but also this extraordinarily expressive face. And I think that what people expect, what people demand when they go and see an opera is, yes, a beautiful voice, and they demand great dramatic presence, and they demand expressiveness. And when one has a face like Jessye's, then it's inspiring to see and hear.
I heard her do Elizabeth in Tannhäuser at Covent Garden and Ariadne auf Naxos, both of which suited her vocally perfectly. She was a very beautiful woman, I think, and had a magnificent presence on stage.
In January 1973, Jessye had her first New York City performance in the Lincoln Center's Great Performers series, and the New York Times said that she was a performer of great intelligence and emotional depth, and really said there was electrifying expectation for her. So New York had been waiting for her and were desperate to see her.
She says that if she hadn't gone to Europe, if she hadn't done it, she'd be waiting on tables in New York somewhere and beating her brains out, trying to go to auditions, because the career that she has in Europe was not available for her in America at the time.
Jessye also talked about the importance of those who'd gone before her, particularly in terms of race. And she said if it hadn't been for those trailblazers in the 30s, it would be more difficult for her. People like Jackie Robinson, Marian Anderson, and Mattie Wilder Dobbs.
Interestingly, the other African-American sopranos all sang mainly the Verdi and Puccini repertoire, focused on that. Jessye Norman is unique in that she concentrated much more on French and German repertoire, all the way through her career, indeed. She became enormously popular in France, and she was even given the task of singing the Marseillaise on the very solemn occasion of the bicentenary of the outbreak of the French Revolution. So she became a sort of honorary Frenchwoman.
1975, Jessye Norman moved to London, and it coincided with a sort of 5-year break from doing opera performances so that she could concentrate on Lieder recitals, where she performed with great dignity all the Strauss and Brahms and songs like that.
The voice at its best was just like a sort of great waterfall. It was a massive, wonderful thing. In fact, that's what it always made me think of, is the Victoria Falls. It just sort of gushed forth, and it had this sort of feeling of bottomlessness.
Jessye Norman finally debuted at the Metropolitan Opera in 1983. It was the opening night of its 100th anniversary season, and Jessye performed as Cassandra in Hector Berlioz's Les Troyennes.
This was the moment. The little girl who'd listened to the Met, listened to Donizetti, listened to all these operas when she was just 9 in Augusta, Georgia. Now she's starring in an opera on the Metropolitan stage, and that was such a thrilling moment for her. So exciting.
In terms of her operatic performances, she was quite majestic on stage. So it was very much about vocal production. Huge voice, very rich, very ample, could cut across big Wagnerian orchestra very easily. So quite statuesque, majestic in performance.
She's Cassandra, so Cassandra dies in Act 1 and she's gone. And the critics say you just sort of sat there at that performance, wishing that she could come back on. The aura of her voice, the remembrance of the sound, the critics said just filled that whole opera. It was a great tribute to her.
In 1984, Jessye's given the great honour of being appointed by the French president as a Commander de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres, which is an incredible moment for her, incredible accolade. And it really seems to be the case that Europe absolutely adores her, but America, where she was actually born, is slightly further behind. She is incredibly successful. She's on TV, she's making recordings, she's touring, and she is really so popular in Europe.
She was invited to sing at President Reagan's second inauguration in 1985, where she sang Simple Gifts, which is from Aaron Copland's American Songs. And then she was also invited for Clinton's second inauguration in 1997. So she was very much one of the go-to sopranos for those sort of occasions.
The UN Secretary General appointed Jessye Norman as a UN ambassador, a great moment. And when the Berlin Wall comes down, she immediately gets on a plane so she can be there at the city she knew so well, the city she had her debut, and she spends time exploring and looking at what it is like now it is reunified.
In 1990, Jessye starred in Richard Wagner's Die Walküre at the Metropolitan Opera. With its tremendous vocal range, expansive delivery, and breath support required for the long vocal lines, Jessye was perfectly suited to Sieglinde's music.
For me, Sieglinde was her great role in Die Walküre, where she has this one particular line to sing and she just soars over the orchestra. And it's a big orchestra at that point. And she just did it gloriously. Great voice.
Her love for Strauss never faded, and the following year she performed Vier letzte Lieder in Wiltshire at the spectacular Salisbury Cathedral. In 1992, Jessye Norman starred in the opera Oedipus Rex at the Saito Kinen Festival in Tokyo. This performance was sung with such conviction and passion that it heightened the tension as the story evolved. Jessye Norman was a global sensation. The sheer size and power of her voice always left people wanting more.
She put down a very famous recording of Côte Mazur, which was the Richard Strauss 4 Last Songs, which for a lot of people, they would still put that as their top version. But very much Mazur wallowing in this great soprano voice and what it could do and the great long lines that it could spin.
Jessye's increasingly being called on for state occasions in America. In 1994, she sings at the funeral of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, and in 1996, she sings at the Atlanta Olympic Games.
Singing at the Olympic Games would have been huge for her because it was her homeland, Georgia. What an honour.
She's honored by New York's Associated Black Charities for her charity work and also for being a great artist.
She was a sort of great lady of New York society, and she was a figure of fashion and great interest who mixed with the great and the good.
Jessye sang the narrator role with such beauty in the 2002 musical The People's Passion.
Gradually, she scaled back her operatic commitments. Another one like Renee Fleming, who went out still at the top without hearing any sort of great deterioration in the quality of the voice. Well, as well as an operatic singer and a recitalist, she was also very much promoting African-American song and through the church, the spirituals. That was always part of her repertoire.
Jessye and Kathleen Battle got together with composer Vangelis to perform at the Temple of Zeus in Athens.
Carnegie Hall asked Jessye Norman to come and curate their Festival of African American Culture, which is called Honor. She sets up the Jessye Norman School of the Arts, and that's in Augusta, Georgia, her hometown. And what that is a free after-school program for the children in the area. It's about music, it's about singing, but it's about all types of learning and art. So what she wants is for these children to have the best start possible.
Jessye was awarded the very prestigious National Medal of Arts, as well as the National Humanities Award.
I think the thing about Jessye Norman is she was never straitjacketed by opera. She would always sing recitals, she would sing spirituals, and later on in her career, she explored jazz and Ellington and that style of things. I think she kept lots of doors open.
Above all, I think she would say she is an African-American dramatic soprano from the South. She has all of that history inside. She's very conscious of it. And from her home, she continues to spread the message of music, of solidarity, and of teaching, which is very, very important to her.
The vocal phenomenon that is Jessye Norman has long been acknowledged for possessing one of the world's most beautiful voices. Over the years, she's won a number of prestigious awards in recognition of a voice of extraordinary richness and range. Her strong sense of self-worth gave her the confidence to push for her dream. Jessye Norman takes her place as one of the great opera legends.